every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. So it's all ours, and we welcome one another. We say welcome to this world to one another over and over and over again until we feel all welcome. Welcome to us all.
Our opening hymn today is Do You Hear? It's number 112 in the gray hymnal.
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights, on the plain, in the vale, on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul, of your soul? Hear the cry fear won't still, hear the heart's call to will, hear a sigh's startling trill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, all the dreams, all the dares, all the sighs, all the prayers? They are yours, mine and theirs. Do you hear, do you hear?
Over the last many months, when spring bloomed into summer and summer harvested into fall, unexpected time and space entered our days. Who knew a pandemic with the power to suffocate would also center us, nudge us to notice little things, a shadow, a crow probing the leaf litter, a spider's web. And we may feel how these dim, damp days ask us to hibernate, to have that second piece of pie to pad our body for the time of less light and more night. How our hand is drawn to the soft fur of a warm pet, and our arms yearn to wrap themselves around our beloved. Let us gently acknowledge the contradictions of life, danger and refuge, dark and light, withdrawal and embrace. Join me in saying our affirmation. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. We light our second chalice for our partner church in Šimanfalva, Transylvania, Romania. We light our third chalice for our children and youth in religious exploration and all around the world. Let us sing the flame into life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Good morning and welcome to the Time for All Ages portion of the service. The story I'm going to tell you today is from Kindness, a treasury of Buddhist wisdom for children and parents collected and adapted by Sarah Conover. It's called The Buddha and the Brahmins. Long ago, a number of Brahmins paid a visit to the Buddha, and the Brahmins were the wealthiest and best educated religious group in India. On this occasion, they hoped to discuss questions of philosophy with the Buddha. One among them, 16-year-old Kapathika, was an exceptional scholar. He wanted to pose the very first question. Venerable Buddha, Kapathika asked, we study the holy scriptures of the Brahmins. These scriptures are just the same as our fathers studied, and our great-grandfathers before them. As far back in time as we have been Brahmins, these have been our holy teachings. We've come to the firm conclusion that our teachings alone are true. Therefore, it follows that everything taught by others is false. Now, sir, what is your opinion about this? The Buddha considered the question in silence. After a time, he posed a question back to Kapathika. Young sir, among all of the Brahmins, is there any one person who will guarantee that in all the world over, from beginning of time to forevermore, that your teachings alone are true and that all others are false? The young man hesitated. No, he finally replied, I've never heard anyone guarantee such a claim. Then, continued the Buddha, is there a teacher or a teacher of teachers or any author of your scriptures who knows and guarantees the Brahman teachings alone are true, and everything else in the world is false? No, I don't believe so, answered the young man truthfully. Then it seems to me that the claim of the Brahmins is like a long line of blind men, each holding the hand of the one in front of him. The first fellow cannot see clearly his destination. nor can the middle one, nor can the last. Yet they won't let go of one another. They remain in a group. The Buddha pressed on. Young Kapathika, a wise man or woman can say, I have faith, or I believe in this. To say so is respectful of the truth. But a wise man and a wise woman will never claim that this alone in all the world over is true and everything else is false. And with those words, by which all opinions are respected, the Buddha, young Kapathika, and the Brahmins were able to continue discussing many vital things late into the night. To be firmly attached to an opinion or to look down on others' opinions are barriers to true wisdom. Thanks be, and may all beings be happy. Please do consider joining us for the Children's Religious Exploration Program being held live at 9:45 a.m. on Sunday mornings via Zoom.
Take a deep breath wherever you are. Feel the slower, truer rhythms of our lives. Are you remembering to have compassion for yourself? Just take a moment to ponder that question. Am I being compassionate towards myself? Keep that thought in mind, especially during times of struggle and hardship in your own life. It's a hard time for many in our nation. We have food insecurity, illness, many are dying, unemployment, and uncertainty. And so I was glad to know that this week that we were able to give some children the winter clothes they need, the hats, the gloves, the scarves, the pants, the socks, new sneakers, rain boots. A gift of compassion coming from this congregation and other words from you. I think, too, of the vitamins that are on their way to our partner church in Shimanfalva, sent by wonderful members of our own congregation. I think of all the ways that we strive to be compassionate in our lives and in this congregation. We look out for one another. And so Denise Connor has asked us to generate positive thoughts and prayers for two dear ones. Charlotte, who is experiencing stage 5 liver disease and is now completely isolated in hospital since developing COVID. And Denise asks us to also remember her friend Vicki, who is slowly recovering alone and at home from COVID, but she is improving. Let us think now of all who are ill in our country, all who are in need. Let us be compassionate. Let us send our compassionate thoughts and prayers and our actions and deeds. May they be compassionate too, out into a hurting world. Compassion is our way. And gratitude. Gratitude for all that comes to us and blesses us in our lives. Well over a century ago, in 1890. Our spiritual forebears first gathered and founded a Unitarian congregation in this city. And much has changed. If you read the original founding documents, the language comes from another age. And yet, the essence remains the same. Ours is a free faith religious tradition created by generations who came before us, who displayed moral courage, who insisted upon religious freedom for themselves and for others. Ours is a life-affirming tradition that is not afraid to question and challenge the teachings and practices that we find to be oppressive to the human spirit. And for this tradition, created through the sacrifices of so many across the generations, we give thanks. And I invite you now to simply look at your life and consider all the gifts that flow to you. May our hearts swell with gratitude. Gratitude is our way. Amen.
Are you going through a hard time? Do you need a listening ear? Please, if this is you, join a small, kind group of caring individuals at noon every second Sunday of the month via Zoom. Sunday, December 13th, is the next Compassionate Connection.
Our pastoral hymn today is From the Crush of Wealth and Power. It's number 125 in the Gray Hymnal.
From the crush of wealth and power, something broken in us all waits the Spirit's silent hour, pleading with a poignant call, bind all my wounds again. Even now our hearts are weary of the friend we need so much. When I see the pain you carry, shall I with a gentle touch bind all your wounds again? When our love for one another makes our burdens light to bear, find the sister and the brother hungry for the feast we share, bind all their wounds again. Every time our spirits languish, terrified to draw too near, may we know each other's anguish, and with love that casts out fear, bind all our wounds again.
Unitarian Universalism encourages us to search for spiritual truth and meaning individually and freely, to serve and connect with people in and beyond our congregation. Let's step back a minute and consider the qualities that may be necessary for a church at all levels of hierarchy to nurture its members. To help with this, I turn to the aspirations expressed by Reverend James L. Adams. I call that church free, which enters into covenant with the ultimate source of existence, a sustaining and transforming power not made with human hands. It binds together families and generations, protecting against the idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth or authority. This covenant is the charter and responsibility and joy of worship in the face of death as well as life. I call that church free, which brings individuals into a caring, trusting fellowship that protects and nourishes their integrity and spiritual freedom, that yearns to belong to the church universal. It is open to insight and conscience from every source. It bursts through rigid tradition, giving rise to new and living language, to new and broader fellowship. It is a pilgrim church, a servant church, on an adventure of the Spirit. It aims to find unity in diversity under the promptings of the Spirit that maketh all things new.
Thank you, Barbara, for that reminder of James Luther Adams. He is really a profound thinker. Thanks to the musicians and the storytellers, too, this morning for your contributions to the service. It was over 2 decades ago now, in 1998, the Black Unitarian Universalist theologian Tondeka, one of our premier thinkers, leading thinkers, she recognized a big mistake that the Unitarian Universalist Association was making, and she wrote about it in a widely read essay that was subsequently widely ignored, at least by leaders of the Unitarian Universalist movement. Kind of reminds me of a scene from that classic comedy, Planes and Trains and Automobiles. That's a great movie, by the way. I love that movie. And in the movie, Steve Martin and John Candy, they're driving along. They're trying to get home for the holidays, and they're driving the wrong way on the entrance ramp to a freeway, and there's some other motorists in a parallel lane going the right way, and they're shouting out at them. They're saying, "You're going the wrong way." But John Candy and Steve Martin imagine that they're shouting insults at them and obscenities. And so they start shouting back at them and laughing and giving them the finger. And all of a sudden, they almost have a head-on collision. They were being warned, but they were too obstinate to listen. Tondeka's essay, Why Anti-Racism Will Fail, I didn't even know about it. It went under my radar at the time, so I didn't hear her warning. Whenever I did hear about any anti-racist initiatives in the Unitarian Universalist Association, I was heartened, and I figured this must be a good thing. Indeed, one of the alluring things that has drawn many of us to this religious tradition has been our long commitment to doing all we can to help remedy and heal racial injustice and help create diverse congregations. It's a compelling vision, dear to my heart, dear to our hearts. And it's a vision dear to Tondeka's heart, too. Yet when she took the anti-racist training our association was promoting, she was aghast. Why is that? Well, it's because the theological premises of the approach are especially ill-suited for Unitarian Universalists. One of the key doctrines that our religious forebears sought to escape from is the doctrine of original sin. This notion that you are born in sin, you're inherently depraved, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can only be saved by the grace of God. Well, as you can see, this theology doesn't give a person a whole lot to do except that hope that God steps in to save the day. And our spiritual forebears considered this kind of theology that didn't give us anything to do and had a poor opinion of human nature. They considered this theology to be both demeaning and disempowering. And so does Tandeka. And when she saw that the UUA anti-racism program rested upon a nearly exact replica of this theology, she knew that it was ill-suited for Unitarian Universalists, and also she knew that it wasn't going to work. It was going to be counter-effective. For example, in the trainings, she was told that all white people, no exceptions, all white people are inherently racist, and that she, a black person, she was lamenting this, that white people were being told this. She lamented because she said this called for no other action on the part of the white sinner except confession. Surely the moral passivity, she writes, advocated by such a theology is one reason why anti-racism programs can claim so few concrete results. The doctrine of human helplessness goes against the entire sweep of our religious tradition. We affirm human moral agency, writes Tandeka. Rather than claiming that human nature is corrupt, we celebrate it as inherently worthwhile and filled with dignity. In our tradition, we are always active agents in our own salvation. And so why, she asks, have we accepted a doctrine of race that indicts 95% of our congregants as helpless, passive sinners? Good question. Tandeka voiced these concerns nearly over 2 decades ago. And since then, our association has doubled down on their misguided anti-racism efforts. Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, which I purchased and read with great interest, and I discovered that it doesn't work for me. It's published by our own UUA Beacon Press. It has become one of the new Bibles that enforces the doctrine of inherent, ineradicable white racial sinfulness. Then in 2017, the members of the UUA Board of Trustees, in a single short meeting, they deliberated, I guess a little while, and they declared that the entire Unitarian Universalist Association is a white supremacist organization. Not meaning, as is commonly understood, that we promote white supremacy, but that systemic racism permeates everything, not just some things, but everything in our association, just as the original sin of racism permeates all white people. Needless to say, calling us a white supremacist organization is kind of confusing, because what do you call organizations that promote white supremacy when we don't? It's very confusing. Everything Tandeka has warned against has come to pass. UUA leadership is promoting anti-racist initiatives that betray our religious tradition and will not only fail, they will create more divisiveness and ill will in our congregations, and in fact, they already have. There's a growing body of evidence. Sociologists study these programs, and they go back and they interview people afterwards, and they see what kind of transformation has happened. There's a growing body of evidence that these coercive models of anti-racism initiatives, they don't work. They don't. Not only do they not work, oftentimes they make things worse. Simply put, when you shame people, you humiliate them, and ultimately, this will provoke resistance. On the other hand, when you touch people's hearts, you transform them. And this is our Unitarian Universalist way, to touch and transform, allow people to grow by their own choice. We don't shame and humiliate people. When critics of the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association's current approach, have raised their concerns about these misguided initiatives, the response has been harsh and unforgiving. Not at all congruent with our liberal religious tradition that encourages tolerance and understanding and dialogue. Not only has the reaction been harsh and intolerance, I am really profoundly disturbed to have to tell you that it has been unethical. Indeed, the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association violated its own code of ethics when it censured my colleague Todd Eckloff for writing an honest book critiquing our association. And the Unitarian Universalist Association ran roughshod over due processes when they removed him from ministerial fellowship. These were egregious abuses of power undertaken to enforce ideological conformity within our movement. Now, before I proceed any further in my sermon, I want to offer you all some reassurances. None of the actions that I have taken or am taken in responses to these abuses will affect our congregation or my ministry here. Be reassured of that. We are part of a religious association in which the ultimate authority, I'm talking about all these things that the Unitarian Universalist leadership of the association is doing, and you might wonder, where do they get the power to do that? Actually, the power in our congregations comes from the members. We are the ultimate source of authority in our religious movement. Consider, for example, Reverend Eckloff over in Spokane. He continues to minister there and enjoy the support of his congregation because they've known him for a long time, and they know he's not the terrible things that he's been called. So he continues to serve them. In spite of the unjust, punitive actions taken against him by the Ministers Association and the Unitarian Universalist Association, their power is limited, thank goodness. You may know that I have spoken out in defense of my good colleague Todd's right of conscience and expression in the recent past, and you have been amazingly, wonderfully supportive of me in doing this. Speaking out against abuses of power and injustice, wherever they occur, is something you have every right to expect of your minister. Yet I never expected that abuses and injustice would emanate from the leadership of our own association. And yet it has. And so I am compelled to speak out. And I have been encouraged to do so by our own committee on the ministry, which have studied this situation in some depth and recognizes the seriousness of the matter. After today's sermon, actually I think these documents are already posted on our website, but after today's sermon, for sure, 3 documents will be posted on our website that will provide more context and information about my current activities. In September of this year, and I really regretted having to do this, but I did, with 14 other ministers, including the Reverend Mark Gallagher, who has often spoken from our pulpit, and also the Reverend Craig Morrow, who will speak here later this month. I joined them and some other clergy who were profoundly disturbed by the unethical actions of our association. And in protest of this, we resigned from the Ministers Association. And our letter of resignation is posted on the website for you to read so you can understand in more detail what it was that moved me to take such a dramatic step. Please know this, however, that me resigning from the Ministers Association, I've been resigned since September, it doesn't affect my standing as a Unitarian Universalist minister, nor does it have any impact upon my ability to fulfill my calling. Earlier this year, a group of Unitarian Universalists around the country, they contacted me. They shared these similar concerns about the leadership of our association. And they were aware of my actions, and they asked me to write about my experience as Reverend Eckloff's defender and advocate in my role as his good officer. It's a position I once held with the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. I was Todd Eckloff's good officer. My essay will be published in a book along with several other essays, probably at the end of this month or next month. But it's already posted on our website, so you can read about this in more depth than I have time to share from the pulpit. I agreed to do this thinking that I would be writing a simple, straightforward account. But as I began to write it, it expanded. And I discovered that I had more to say than I realized. And I also realized I need to put my heart into this because it will probably be the most important and widely read piece I've ever written. It is a strong critique. It's a strong critique of the leadership of our association. Yet, more importantly, it is also an affirmation of the great promise of Unitarian Universalism. So even as Tondeka issued a warning about UU leadership's counter-effective, illiberal approach to anti-racism, so am I issuing a warning about the current direction our Unitarian Universalist leadership is taking our movement. The great promise of our free faith is under threat from within. More than a decade ago, a special commission was chartered by the Board of Trustees of our association to study our democratic structures. And they noted that they are in dire need of repair. Our democratic infrastructure is a shambles. In theory, we're supposed to be a democratic religious association. And our annual General Assemblies are supposed to function as deliberative forums for representatives from all our congregations to vote on important decisions about our future course as Unitarian Universalists. But the General Assemblies have now become rubber stamp assemblies for leaders who shape and control the agenda, and thus our association has become more and more authoritarian. I can't think of a single time in the last quarter century or more since I've been here when we were actually fully aware of what was happening at our General Assemblies and that we were engaged and we were invited to participate in a democratic process. Most years we don't even send delegates. Many congregations don't send delegates. This is not democracy. It's not functioning, and it's supposed to be democracy. It's our chosen form of governance because it is congruent with our theology, which trusts in the decency of human nature. And the leadership of our association, they had this report with excellent recommendations for how to engage the congregations, how to rebuild our democratic infrastructure. They had a ton of great recommendations, and that report ended up on the shelf collecting dust. They've never implemented any of it, nothing. It was as though it was never written. But in the meantime, the association has commissioned a superseding report that will serve to centralize their power, thereby disempowering congregations. And this will, in effect, weaken our democratic structure of our free faith tradition. It will radically alter our theology, changing us into something that no one I know joined Unitarian Universalism to be part of. Indeed, democracy should always ensure that voices of dissent can be heard. And so I am in no way breaking covenant with the UUA by expressing my honest dissent and calling for a change in leadership or that the leadership change its direction. Even as I may appear to be among a select few UU clergy speaking out in opposition to the current leadership of our association, I can tell you that I have been contacted by a number of esteemed colleagues who have thanked me for speaking out. Some of them are in difficult situations wherein speaking out would threaten their livelihood and their careers, and others are simply not willing to endure the trials and tribulations that go with engaging in this kind of a controversy. Then, too, I am working closely with other Unitarian Universalists around the country to work through proper democratic channels to steer our association away from the illiberal and intolerant direction it is now going. We'll work through the system. So I'm not calling for a revolution. I'm simply calling for us to work through the system and change our course. As I noted at the beginning, I was initially heartened to know that UU leaders were committed to anti-racist initiatives. I loved that about us, that we were taking this seriously and we wanted to do something, whatever we could, to make our world better. Since I have realized that these methods that are being imposed upon us, there's nothing collaborative about the model. That's part of the problem, where it's all top down. We're never invited into the conversation. We're simply told we're given our marching orders. And I've realized that this doesn't work. And I've wondered what kind of diversity training would work. Ways that trust in the goodness and the deep yearnings of the human heart. Ways that will create pathways for new insight and understanding and healing and love. And in my search for alternative approaches congruent with Unitarian Universalist principles, I contacted Irshad Manji. She's the author of a book called Don't Label Me, an incredible conversation for divided times. We probably have a higher percentage of church members who've read that book than most congregations because we studied it. And Irshad came and spoke with us on October the 25th, and it was just wonderful. She's a remarkable person. And I contacted her and spoke with her a couple of times on the phone and said, do you have anything that we could do to help us work through these issues? Diversity, understanding, racism. And I was heartened to learn that Irshad has created the kind of program that I have yearned for, and it's called Diversity Without Division. And we plan on offering that next year, the date to be determined, probably late winter, early spring. It'll be a 6-week class, I think. And I anticipate that this will be an enriching and a transformative experience for us. And we hope for and anticipate a high rate of participation. A good deal of the training in this program has to do with growing and practicing moral courage. Moral courage. In fact, that's one of the core virtues of our tradition, having the courage to dissent, to speak truth to power. With that courage and with our compassionate convictions, we will find our way. We will find our way. Would you join me for a time of silent meditation? Each one of us has a voice in this world. Each one of us has perspectives and understandings. Each one of us has a voice. May this be a place where you discover your true voice, your authentic voice. The world needs your voice, not you imitating somebody else's voice. The world needs your voice. The world needs all our voices. Let us be mindful to speak our truths. Let us be mindful to listen with open-heartedness and compassion and understanding. Let us remember always to yearn for that unity that comes through deeper understanding. Amen.
We support UUCS through our pledges, time, and connections with one another. We also support the Salem community through donations to the Marion Polk Food Share. For the month of December, we are sharing our offering with the Interfaith Movement for Immigrant Justice, Emerge. This nonprofit is in relationship with leaders from over 140 congregations across Oregon. Its mission is to advance immigrant justice through direct accompaniment of immigrants facing detention and deportation, policy advocacy, and prophetic action. Please send your checks to UUCS or visit the website to donate. Thank you for helping our congregation and the wider community. And please note on the slide, you can see where to go on our website to donate. You have a number of options. Thank you. We take the light from our chalice to light the social justice lantern as a symbolic reminder of the light and justice we carry out into the world. In this adaptation, Lindsay Bates reminds us how the lantern inspires us. To face the world's shadows, a lantern of light. To face the world's coldness, a lantern of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a lantern of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a lantern of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives.
Can you see that slide we're looking at right now? It says, please join us after the service for our Zoom fellowship gatherings. So even if we can't be together, we can still be together thanks to technology. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. And you can see how to register for the Zoom gathering, fellowship gatherings after the service. So I hope you'll consider doing that. Also, as Barbara was mentioning earlier, we have a Compassionate Connection, Ritual of Compassionate Connection, next Sunday after the service. So if you are going through a hard time, and many of us are, please consider joining us for that. It will help us all to be connected with one another. Wanted you to be aware that after I mentioned during my sermon that there are some documents that are going to be posted on our website that give you a chance to read a little bit more in detail. And you're going to have some questions probably, and I need to answer those questions. So I'm going to be having, the Committee on the Ministry and I are going to be hosting a Zoom gathering on Tuesday, December 15th, one day before Beethoven's birthday. I didn't want to hit that day. I'm going to have a Zoom gathering, and we're going to answer questions, just be in dialogue with you so that you more fully understand what's going on with all this. Wanted to remind you of the Make a Prayer Flag project. Please read about that in our newsletter. Prayer flags for our hopes and dreams. And thank you, Lily, for getting behind that and helping make that happen. We hope that all of our members will participate in this, either by coming here at a scheduled time to make a flag or asking us to mail you one so you can create one at home. We're going to hang them in the sanctuary so we can see all our hopes and dreams for the future. So please consider participating in that. I just want to give a special thanks to George Struble for leading us through this legacy campaign, and the final report is going to be available where you can read about it. You can read about it on our website, in fact. It's a great gift, George, and we're so grateful to you for leading us through that. Wanted to remind you, too, of a Christmas Eve lantern walk. Maybe we'll keep doing this after the pandemic. It's probably going to be so much fun. That's going to be between 4:30 and 5:30. We'll be practicing social distancing. We'll be doing everything that we can possible to make it a safe event, and I'm confident that it will be. And I think it'll be a moving event, too. So please read about that in our website and on our newsletter so you have more information about that. And, of course, we're going to have our usual Christmas Eve service live on Christmas Eve at 7:30, I believe it is, 7 o'clock, sorry. I'm checking with our camera people to make sure I'm telling you the right time. Our Christmas Eve service will be at 7 o'clock. So I think I've bored you with enough announcements. They're all on our website, and they're all in the newsletter. Just wanted to draw your attention to some of the great things that are going on around here. Thanks, everyone.
Our closing hymn today is Be That Guide. It's number 124 in the Gray Hymnal. Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife. Lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life.
Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt of friend or taunt of foe. Ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder trusting good, bitter though the test may be. Through all ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher faith directs, move beyond the old frontier. Though the frightened fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
Let us join hands in body and spirit, saying these words together. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. Extinguish. Just go ahead.